I stood in my own kitchen, trembling, not from fear. From rage I'd been swallowing for 365 days. My daughter-in-law just called me a useless burden in front of 12 dinner guests. Again. She smiled while she said it, like it was a joke. Everyone laughed nervously. My son looked at his plate, and I said nothing because, for the past year, I'd been doing something far more dangerous than arguing back. I'd been collecting evidence. See, most people think revenge is hot-blooded, screaming matches, throwing someone's clothes out the window, dramatic exits. But real revenge, the kind that actually works, it's cold. It's calculated. And it takes patience. Most people don't have. My name is Margaret. I'm 62 years old. And 1 year ago, I moved into my son David's house after my husband died. I thought I'd finally be close to family during the hardest time of my life. Instead, I walked into a nightmare I didn't see coming. My daughter-in-law, Nicole, seemed sweet at first. Helpful, caring. Mom, let me take care of that. Mom, you've been through so much. But the moment I signed over my late husband's life insurance to help with their mortgage, $180,000, everything changed. She started small. Little comments about my cooking, jokes about my age, eye rolls when I spoke. Then it escalated. Public humiliation became her favorite hobby. And my son, the boy I raised to stand up for what's right, became a stranger who looked the other way. Every single time. For months I cried myself to sleep. I thought about leaving. I thought about confronting her. But then I realized something. She thought I was weak. She thought silence meant I'd given up. She had no idea I was building a case that would destroy everything she'd built on lies. And tonight, the entire family was about to find out who the real burden was. Asterisk. Let me take you back to where it all started. October 2023. My husband, Robert, died suddenly of a heart attack. We'd been married 38 years. He was my everything, my best friend, my partner, my reason to laugh even on the hardest days. His death shattered me. David, my only son, flew in for the funeral with Nicole. They'd been married 5 years, and while I didn't know her well, she seemed kind during those awful days. She held my hand during the service, helped me sort through Robert's things. Mom, you shouldn't be alone right now, David said 3 weeks after the funeral. Move in with us. We have plenty of space. Nicole and I both want you there. I hesitated. I've always been independent. But the house felt too empty without Robert. Every corner reminded me of him. The silence was suffocating. Are you sure Nicole's okay with this? I asked. She insisted, David said, smiling. She said you're family, and family takes care of each other. So I sold my house, put most of my belongings in storage, and moved into their spacious 4-bedroom home 2 hours away from everything. I knew the first month was nice. Nicole made my favorite meals, asked about my day. We watched movies together while David worked late at his accounting firm. I started thinking maybe this was what I needed, a fresh start, surrounded by people who loved me. Then came the life insurance payout. Robert had been meticulous about planning. He left me $250,000 in life insurance. It was meant to keep me comfortable for the rest of my life. One evening in December, David and Nicole sat me down for a family conversation. Mom, we need to talk about something sensitive, David started, looking uncomfortable. Nicole jumped in immediately. We're so happy you're here, Margaret. Truly. But we're struggling financially. The mortgage is crushing us. David's firm cut his hours. We're drowning. She pulled out papers showing their mortgage statements, credit card debt, hospital bills from a surgery Nicole had the previous year. We might lose the house, she said, tears forming in her eyes. We don't know what to do. My heart broke for them. These were the people taking care of me. How could I sit on a pile of money while they struggled? How much do you need? I asked. If we could pay down the mortgage significantly, it would change everything, David said quietly. But Mom, we can't ask you to. $180,000, I said. Take it. Family helps family. The relief on their faces seemed genuine. We went to the bank together the next day. I transferred the money directly into their mortgage, bringing it down to almost nothing. Nicole hugged me tightly. You saved us, Mom. I'll never forget this. For 2 weeks after that, I felt good about my decision. Then Nicole's mask began to slip. It started with a comment at dinner. David mentioned I'd made pot roast, one of his childhood favorites. It's a little dry, Nicole said, poking at it with her fork. My mother's recipe uses wine, keeps it moist. Maybe you should try that next time, Margaret. The way she said my name. Not Mom anymore. Margaret. I've been making it this way for 30 years, I said lightly. David always loved it. Well, tastes change, she shrugged, smiling. People evolve, adapt. David said nothing. That was the moment I should have known. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But I made excuses. She's stressed. She's tired. She didn't mean it that way. I had no idea what was coming. Asterisk, asterisk. The comments became more frequent. More pointed. More public. In January, Nicole's parents came for dinner. I spent hours preparing a beautiful meal: roasted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, homemade apple pie. As we sat down to eat, Nicole's mother complimented the presentation. Oh, Margaret helped, Nicole said casually. But I had to fix the seasoning. She forgets that not everyone grew up eating bland food. The table went quiet for a moment. I felt my face flush. I didn't realize. It's fine, Nicole interrupted, patting my hand like I was a child. You're learning. It's hard to keep up with modern cooking techniques when you've been doing things the same way for decades. Her parents laughed uncomfortably. David studied his plate. I excused myself and cried in the bathroom. But that was nothing compared to what came next. Valentine's Day. David surprised Nicole with a weekend getaway to a bed and breakfast upstate. I encouraged him to do it. They needed time alone. The night before they left, Nicole called a few friends over for wine. I stayed in my room, not wanting to intrude, but I could hear everything through the walls. How's it going with David's mom living here? One friend asked. I held my breath. Honestly? It's like having a third child, Nicole laughed. She can't figure out the TV remote. She leaves lights on everywhere. She shuffles around in her bathrobe until noon some days. It's exhausting. That's so hard, another voice sympathized. How long is she staying? Who knows? Nicole sighed dramatically. She gave us money for the house, so David feels obligated. But between you and me, I'm counting down the days until she finds her own place. The martyr act gets old. They all laughed. I sat on my bed, hands shaking, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Martyr act? I'd given them nearly everything I had. I cooked, cleaned, stayed out of their way. I tried so hard to be helpful, not a burden. The next morning, I acted normal, smiled, wished them a wonderful trip. Nicole hugged me. Thanks for understanding, Mom. We really need this time together. The word mom felt like poison in her mouth. While they were gone, I deep cleaned the entire house. Organized closets. Meal prepped for their return. I wanted to prove I wasn't a burden. That I was valuable. When they came back, Nicole walked through the house and said, "Oh, you cleaned. You didn't have to move my stuff around, Margaret. I have a system. No thank you." No acknowledgement. Just criticism. March brought my birthday. I turned 6'2". David took me to dinner, just the two of us. It was the first time in weeks I'd felt like he saw me. We talked about his dad, old memories, what I might want to do with the rest of my life. I'm proud of you, Mom, he said. You've been so strong through all of this. For a moment I felt hopeful, but when we got home, Nicole was hosting an impromptu dinner party. 8 people I'd never met crowded into the living room. "Oh, it's the birthday girl," Nicole announced loudly. "Everyone, this is Margaret. She lives with us, David's mom." The way she said it, like I was a pet they'd adopted. One guest asked, "Oh, are you visiting?" "No, she's permanent," Nicole said before I could answer. "It's a whole thing. But we're making it work. It's what good people do, right? She smiled. At me, that same smile. Sweet and sharp. David laughed along with everyone else, and something inside me broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly. Like a bone cracking under too much weight. April 19th. The night everything changed. Nicole hosted a huge dinner party, 12 guests including her parents, her sister, and several couples from their social circle. I offered to help cook. Nicole declined. Just stay out of the kitchen. Margaret, you know how chaotic it gets, so I set the table. Arranged flowers. Made myself useful in small ways. Dinner was beautiful. Nicole had outdone herself, a spread that looked like something from a magazine. Everyone praised her endlessly. You're so talented, Nicole. How do you do it all? David, you're a lucky man. David beamed. She's incredible. I smiled and nodded, playing my role. The quiet mother-in-law in the corner. Then Nicole brought out dessert, a chocolate lava cake with raspberry coulis. Margaret, could you help clear the dinner plates? She asked sweetly. Of course. I began collecting dishes. As I reached for a plate near Nicole's sister, I accidentally bumped the table. A wine glass tipped over, spilling red wine across the white tablecloth. It was an accident. A simple human mistake, but Nicole's face transformed. Margaret, she snapped. Are you serious right now? I'm so sorry. This is why I asked you to stay out of the way, she said loudly, grabbing napkins. You can't even clear a table. Without causing a disaster. The entire room went silent. Nicole, it was an accident, David said quietly. An accident? Nicole laughed bitterly. This is constant, David. Constant. She breaks things, forgets things, gets in the way. I've tried to be patient because she's your mother, but this is ridiculous. My hands were shaking. I'll clean it up. No, I'll clean it up. Nicole cut me off. Like I clean up everything else. You've done enough. She turned to her guests, composing herself. I'm sorry, everyone. Sometimes living in a multi-generational household is ... challenging. A few people nodded sympathetically toward Nicole. Her mother reached over and squeezed her hand. You're a saint, Nicole. Not everyone could handle this. I stood there, holding dirty plates, feeling 12 pairs of eyes on me, judging me, pitying me. Or worse, agreeing with Nicole. David said nothing. He just sat there, letting his wife humiliate me in front of everyone. I set the plates down carefully, excused myself, and went to my room. I didn't cry right away. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, and something shifted inside me. For months, I'd been absorbing her cruelty, making excuses, telling myself it would get better. That, if I just tried harder, was quieter, smaller, more helpful, she'd see my worth. But she didn't want me to be worthy. She wanted me to be beneath her. And my son was letting it happen. I thought about leaving, packing my things and disappearing, finding a small apartment somewhere and living out my days alone. But then I remembered something Robert used to say. Maggie, he'd tell me when I was frustrated at work or dealing with difficult people. Never make decisions when you're emotional. Get quiet, get smart, then get even. Robert was the kindest man I ever knew. But he was also strategic. Fair, he believed in justice, and he would not want me to slink away in shame over money I'd given in good faith and treatment. I didn't deserve . So I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight back with screaming or tears. I was going to document everything. Build a case so airtight that when the moment came, Nicole wouldn't have anywhere to hide. I opened my laptop and started a folder. Title: Evidence. The war had begun, and she had no idea. **** The next morning, I went to the store and bought 3 things. A small voice-activated recorder, a notebook with a lock, a cheap smartphone with a separate data plan. I wasn't tech-savvy, but I learned fast. YouTube became my teacher. I watched videos on how to use recording apps, how to back up files to the cloud, how to timestamp evidence. My strategy was simple. Document every insult, every lie, every instance of manipulation. Record conversations where Nicole spoke about Me behind my back. Keep a detailed journal of incidents, dates, and witnesses. And most importantly, never let on that anything had changed. I became the perfect victim. Quiet, compliant, invisible. But I was watching everything. The first recording came 3 days after the dinner party. Nicole was on the phone with her sister in the kitchen. I was in the hallway, recorder in my cardigan pocket. I swear to God, Emily, she's driving me insane, Nicole said. She just hovers, and David defends her constantly. I'm like, hello, I'm your wife. She had her turn raising you. Why doesn't she just move out? Emily asked. Because she has nowhere to go, Nicole laughed. She gave us almost all her money. She's basically stuck here unless she wants to live in some depressing senior apartment. That's kinda sad. It is what it is, Nicole said coldly. I'm not. A rehabilitation center for lonely old women. I'm just waiting for David to finally grow a spine and tell her she needs to figure her life out. I saved the recording. Backed it up. Added it to my evidence folder. Recording number 1. Nicole admits to wanting me gone and mocks my financial situation. The notebook became my daily ritual. April 23rd. Nicole told her book club I hover around the house with nothing to do, and that it makes her uncomfortable. Witnessed by 4 women. April 30th. Nicole asked me to babysit her friend's kids, then told the friend I wasn't great with children when I politely declined because I had a doctor's appointment. May 5th. Nicole complained to David that I use too much hot water when I shower. David agreed and asked me to keep showers under 10 minutes. Every incident. Every witness. Every detail. I also started paying closer attention to their finances. Nicole bought designer handbags, expensive shoes, weekly nail appointments, lavish dinners out. For a couple drowning in debt, they seemed to be living pretty comfortably. One afternoon while they were both at work, I did something I'm not proud of. I searched their home office. I found bank statements, credit card bills, mortgage documents. And what I discovered made my blood run cold. The $180,000 I'd given them? Only $50,000 had gone toward the mortgage. The rest had vanished into personal accounts, luxury purchases, and a secret investment account in Nicole's name only. They'd lied to me. She'd cried about losing the house, shown me falsified documents, manipulated me into giving away my security, and my son had gone along with it. I photographed everything with my secret phone. Bank statements. Credit card bills showing designer purchases just days after my transfer. The investment account showing $95,000 in Nicole's name. I uploaded it all to a secure cloud drive. Evidence was mounting. But I needed more than financial fraud. I needed the community to see who she really was. I needed witnesses. I needed her mask to come off in front of everyone who thought she was a saint. So I started attending neighborhood events, HOA meetings, church gatherings. I became visible in all the places Nicole considered hers. And I waited for her to make a mistake. Because arrogant people always do. Asterisk, asterisk. Nicole was deeply involved in the neighborhood HOA. She served on the welcoming committee, organized block parties, and positioned herself as the picture-perfect suburban housewife. Everyone loved her. Or so they thought. In late May, the HOA announced a special community meeting to discuss new neighborhood guidelines and elect board members. Nicole was running for vice president. She wanted that title badly. It meant status, recognition, power. You should come to the meeting, Margaret, she said one morning, dripping with fake sweetness. It's important for residents to participate. I knew what she was really saying. Show up and be the nice, quiet mother-in-law who makes me look like a caring daughter-in-law. I'd love to, I said with a smile. The meeting was scheduled for June 3rd at the community center. I had 48 hours to prepare. That evening, I reviewed all my recordings and notes. I had dozens of instances of Nicole's cruelty, financial deception, and manipulation. But I needed the right moment to reveal it. I couldn't go in guns blazing. That would make me look bitter and unhinged. I needed her to expose herself first. So I devised a plan. The night before the meeting, I called 3 people. Mrs. Patterson, a retired teacher who lived 2 doors down. I'd helped her with groceries several times, and we'd become friendly. Reverend James from the church Nicole and David attended sporadically. I'd started attending services regularly and had spoken with him about family difficulties. Carla, a woman from Nicole's book club who'd witnessed several of Nicole's cruel comments about me, to each of them. I said the same thing. There's something I need to share tomorrow at the meeting. It's difficult for me, but I think it's important. Would you be willing to support me if I speak up? They all agreed. The night of the meeting, 75 neighbors packed into the community center. Nicole arrived looking stunning, perfectly styled hair, designer dress, confident smile. David stood beside her, looking proud. I sat in the back row, hands folded in my lap, invisible. The meeting began with routine business, budget reports, landscaping updates, noise complaints. Then came the board elections. Nicole stood to give her candidacy speech. I'm honored to be considered for vice president, she began. For those who don't know me, I'm Nicole Harrington. My husband David and I have lived here for 6 years. We love this community. It's not just a neighborhood, it's family. People nodded approvingly. I believe in transparency, accountability, and compassion, she continued. We need leadership that cares about every resident, regardless of their circumstances. She glanced back at me when she said circumstances. A pointed look. Living with my mother-in-law this past year has taught me so much about patience and service, Nicole said, her voice dripping with false humility. Taking care of aging family members isn't easy, but it's the right thing to do. It's what community means. A few people clapped. My heart pounded. She was using me. Using my presence in her home, my vulnerability as proof of her good character. I raised my hand. The moderator noticed. Yes, Margaret, do you have a question for the candidate? Nicole's smile faltered for just a second. I stood slowly, my legs shaking. I do have a question, I said, my voice calm and steady. Nicole just mentioned transparency and accountability. I'm wondering if those values extend to personal relationships? The room went silent. Nicole's smile froze. I'm not sure what you mean, Margaret. I think you do, I said quietly, and then I pulled out my phone. I'd like to share something with everyone. Asterisk. Nicole's face went pale. Margaret, this isn't the time or place for what? I interrupted gently. For honesty? I thought you valued transparency. The moderator looked uncertain. Mrs. Harrington, is this relevant to the election? It's absolutely relevant, I said. Nicole is running on a platform of integrity and compassion. The community deserves to know who they're voting for. David stood up. Mom, what are you doing? I looked at my son, the boy I raised, the man I no longer recognized. I'm telling the truth, I said. Something I should have done months ago. I turned to the crowd. 7 months ago, I moved into my son and daughter-in-law's home after my husband passed away. I was grieving, vulnerable, and desperate not to be alone. Nicole welcomed me with open arms. She told me I was family. I paused, letting the room settle into uncomfortable silence. Within weeks of my arrival, Nicole told me they were in financial crisis, drowning in debt, about to lose their home. She showed me documents, mortgage statements, medical bills. She cried. A few people glanced at Nicole, who stood frozen at the front of the room. I gave them $180,000 from my late husband's life insurance policy. I continued. Nearly everything I had. Because family helps family, right? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But here's what I discovered, I said, my voice growing stronger. Only $50,000 went to the mortgage. The rest went to designer purchases, luxury vacations, and a secret investment account in Nicole's name. Nicole's face turned crimson. That's a lie. I have bank statements, I said calmly, holding up my phone. Photographed from your home office. Would you like me to share them? The room erupted in whispers. David looked like he'd been slapped. Mom, you went through your private documents that prove you defrauded me? I asked. Yes, David, I did. Mrs. Patterson stood up from her seat. I'd like to hear more, Margaret. Reverend James nodded. So would I. I took a breath. The financial deception was painful. But what broke me was how Nicole treated me every single day after I gave her that money. I pulled up a recording on my phone. This is from 3 weeks ago. Nicole is speaking to her sister. I pressed play. Nicole's voice filled the room, clear and cold. Asterisk. She's basically stuck here unless she wants to live in some depressing senior apartment. I'm not a rehabilitation center for lonely old women. Asterisk gasps echoed through the crowd. Nicole's face crumbled. You recorded me? In my own home? In the home I helped you keep, I said quietly. The home where you humiliated me daily. I played. Another clip. Then another. Nicole mocking my cooking. Nicole calling me a burden to her friends. Nicole laughing about how I shuffle around in my bathrobe. With each recording, the room grew quieter. People who'd smiled at Nicole minutes ago now stared at her with disgust. Carla, from the book club, stood up. I've heard her say worse. I was at a gathering where Nicole called Margaret a charity case and joked about putting her in a nursing home. Another neighbor raised her hand. She told me Margaret was mentally slipping and couldn't be trusted. Alone. Nicole's carefully constructed image was disintegrating in real time. These are lies. Nicole shouted, her voice shaking. She's twisting everything. She's bitter and I have 12 recordings, I said calmly. 40 pages of documented incidents. And 3 witnesses willing to testify to your behavior. I looked directly at her. So tell me, Nicole, who's lying now? Asterisk. David finally found his voice. Everyone, please, he said, stepping forward. This is a private family matter. It shouldn't be discussed here. Why not? Mrs. Patterson challenged. Your wife made it public when she used your mother's situation to win votes, David faltered. We've been trying to work through this. You've been doing nothing, I said, my voice cracking for the first time. You've watched her destroy me for months and said nothing. The room was silent, every eye on us. David, I raised you to stand up for what's right, I continued. I taught you that family protects family. That honesty matters. That cruelty is never acceptable. Tears blurred my vision, but I refused to let them fall. And when your wife turned me into her verbal punching bag, when she stole from me, when she made me feel worthless in the home I helped save, you looked the other way. David's face was red. Mom, it wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I demanded. Explain to me how you sat at that dinner table on April 19th and let her call me a disaster in front of 12 people. Explain how you said nothing when she told her friends I was a burden. Explain how you stood by while she spent my money on designer purses and lied about debt. He had no answer. Nicole grabbed his arm. David, we don't have to listen to this. Yes, you do, Reverend James said firmly. Margaret has the floor. I turned back to the crowd. I stayed silent because I was afraid of being alone, afraid of losing my son, afraid that if I spoke up, I'd be painted as the difficult mother-in-law, the bitter old woman who couldn't let go. My voice grew steadier, but silence isn't peace. Silence is surrender, and I'm done surrendering. I pulled out a folder from my bag. Inside were printed copies of the bank statements, the recordings transcribed, and witness statements. I'm filing a civil suit against Nicole for financial elder abuse and fraud, I said. The evidence is irrefutable. And David, you're named as a co-defendant since you benefited from the stolen funds and participated in the deception. David looked like he might be sick. Mom, you can't. I already have, I said. My attorney filed the paperwork this morning. Nicole's legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard in a nearby chair, her face drained of color. This isn't just about money, I continued, addressing the room. This is about dignity. About refusing to be invisible. About showing other people, especially older women, that you don't have to accept abuse just because it comes from family. Mrs. Patterson started clapping. Then Carla, then Reverend James. Within seconds, half the room was applauding. The other half sat in stunned silence. The moderator cleared his throat. I think. given the circumstances. We should postpone the election vote. Agreed, someone called out. Nicole stood abruptly. This is insane. David, we're leaving. She stormed toward the exit. David hesitated, looking between me and his wife. For a moment, just a moment, I thought he might choose me. But then he followed. Nicole out the door. I watched my son walk away. And this time, I didn't cry. Because I'd already grieved the loss of the boy I raised. The man who just left wasn't someone I recognized anymore. Mrs. Patterson came up beside me and squeezed my hand. You did the right thing, Margaret. I know, I said quietly. And for the first time in months, I believed it. The next 48 hours were a blur. The community meeting became the talk of the neighborhood. By morning, everyone knew what had happened. Some people reached out with support. Mrs. Patterson brought me casseroles. Reverend James called to check on me. Carla sent a long text apologizing for not speaking up sooner. But others, Nicole's friends, people loyal to David, whispered that I was vindictive, dramatic, that I'd aired private business to ruin Nicole's reputation. I didn't care anymore. I spent those 2 days packing my belongings. Every item I'd brought into that house 7 months ago. Every piece of myself I could reclaim. On the third day, David came home while Nicole was out. He found me in my room, folding clothes into suitcases. Mom, we need to talk. I didn't look up. I don't think we do. Please, he said, his voice strained. Just hear me out. I stopped packing and faced him. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. Wrinkled shirt. Hair uncombed. I didn't know, he started. About the money. About how she spent it. I swear to you, I thought it all went to the mortgage. You didn't ask? He hesitated. Nicole handled the finances. I trusted her. You trusted her more than you trusted me. That's not fair. It's completely fair, I said, my voice cold. When she humiliated me, you said nothing. When she mocked me to her friends, you laughed along. When she made me feel like garbage in my own son's home, you chose her comfort over my dignity. David's eyes filled with tears. I was trying to keep the peace. No, I said. You were taking the easy road. And it cost you your mother. Don't say that. It's true, David. I zipped up a suitcase. I don't know who you've become. But the son I raised would never treat anyone the way you've treated me. Especially not the woman who gave you everything. He stood there, broken. What do you want me to do? I want you to look at yourself and ask if you're proud of the man you see, I said. I want you to think about what your father would say if he were here. And I want you to decide whether your marriage is worth losing your integrity. Are you really suing us? Yes. Mom, that money, we can pay you back. This isn't about money anymore, I said. It's about accountability. Nicole needs to face consequences. And so do you. He wiped his eyes. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo 7 months of cruelty. Sorry doesn't give me back my dignity. I picked up my suitcase. Where are you going? I found a small apartment across town, I said. 1 bedroom, affordable, it's not much, but it's mine. You don't have to leave. Yes, I do. I can't stay in a place where I'm not valued. Where I'm treated like a burden instead of a person. David's face crumpled. I love you, Mom. I love you too, I said quietly. But love isn't enough when respect is gone. I walked past him, carrying my bags down the stairs. Mrs. Patterson was waiting outside with her car. She'd offered to help me move. As we drove away, I looked back at the house one last time. David stood in the doorway, watching me leave, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. The lawsuit moved quickly. My attorney was a sharp woman in her 50s named Janet Liu. She specialized in elder abuse cases and took mine on with fierce determination. You have one of the strongest cases I've seen, she told me during our first meeting. The recordings, the financial documents, the witnesses, it's airtight. Within 3 weeks, we were in mediation. Nicole and David showed up with their own attorney. A smug man in an expensive suit who clearly thought this would be easy to dismiss. It wasn single quotes T. Janet presented the evidence methodically. Bank statements showing the $130,000 discrepancy. Receipts for luxury purchases made within days of my transfer. The investment account in Nicole's name. Then came the recordings. The mediator, a retired judge, listened to each one with increasing disapproval. Nicole's voice, cold and mocking, filled the room. Asterisk, she's basically stuck here unless she wants to live in some depressing senior apartment. Asterisk, I'm not a rehabilitation center for lonely old women. Asterisk, the martyr act gets old. Asterisk. David stared at the table, his face ashen. Nicole's attorney tried to argue that the recordings were inadmissible, obtained without consent. Janet smiled. Virginia is a one-party consent state. Margaret had every legal right to record conversations she was part of or could overhear in shared spaces. The attorney deflated. The mediator looked at Nicole with something close to disgust. Mrs. Harrington, did you or did you not misrepresent your financial situation to obtain $180,000 from your mother-in-law? Nicole's jaw tightened. We needed help. That's not what I asked. Silence. Did you spend $95,000 of that money on personal investments and luxury items instead of the mortgages claimed? More silence. Did you repeatedly humiliate and demean Mrs. Harrington in her son's home, despite her contributing significantly to your household? Nicole's face turned red. She was difficult. Answer the question, Mrs. Harrington. We had disagreements. Disagreements? I said quietly, speaking for the first time. You called me worthless. You mocked me to your friends. You made me feel like I didn't deserve to exist in a space I helped pay for. Nicole finally looked at me. You were always so judgmental. I was grieving, I said, my voice breaking. I just lost my husband. I gave you nearly everything I had because you said you needed it. And you repaid me with cruelty. The mediator held up a hand. I've heard enough. Here's my recommendation. He looked at Nicole and David. You will repay Mrs. Harrington the full $130,000 that was misappropriated, plus interest and legal fees. You have 6 months to arrange payment, or I'll recommend the court freeze your assets and force a sale of property. David's head snapped up. We can't afford. You could afford designer handbags, the mediator said coldly. You can afford restitution. Nicole looked like she wanted to argue, but her attorney shook his head. Additionally, the mediator continued, I'm recommending a formal public apology. In writing. Delivered to the HOA, the church, and any other community organization where Mrs. Harrington's character was impugned. That's humiliating, Nicole started. So was what you did to her, the mediator said flatly. Consider yourself lucky she's not pursuing criminal charges for elder fraud. Nicole's attorney whispered something to her. She nodded stiffly. Fine, she said through gritted teeth. The mediator turned to me. Mrs. Harrington, are these terms acceptable? I looked at Nicole. At David. At the ruins of what used to be my family. Yes, I said. They are. Asterisk. 2 weeks later, Nicole's written apology arrived. It was posted in the HOA newsletter. Read aloud at church and sent to every person who'd witnessed. Her behavior. It was corporate, cold, clearly written by her attorney. Asterisk. Nicole Harrington, wish to apologize for my treatment of Margaret Harrington during her residence in our home. My words and actions were inappropriate and hurtful. I regret any pain I caused and take full responsibility for my behavior. I am committed to personal growth and learning from this experience. Asterisk. Not a single sentence sounded genuine. No acknowledgement of the theft. No real remorse. Just carefully crafted legal language, designed to minimize damage. But it didn't matter. The community had already made up their minds. Nicole was no longer the golden girl of the neighborhood. She resigned from the welcoming committee. Stopped hosting parties. Avoided community events. The few times I saw her at the grocery store, she'd turn and walk the other way. David reached out several times. Text messages. Asterisk. Mom, can we talk? Voicemails. I know I messed up. Please call me back. Emails. I miss you. I'm so sorry. Asterisk. I didn't respond for weeks. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because I needed space to heal. To rebuild myself without the constant weight of their dysfunction. Finally, 2 months after I moved out, I agreed to meet him for coffee. He looked different. Thinner. Older somehow. Thank you for seeing me, he said quietly. I'm not here to reconcile, I said. I'm here to listen. He nodded, looking down at his coffee. Nicole and I are separating. I felt a flicker of something, not quite satisfaction, but maybe vindication. I'm sorry to hear that. No, you're not, he said, almost smiling. And you shouldn't be. He took a breath. After the mediation, I couldn't look at her the same way. Every time she spoke, I heard those recordings in my head. I kept thinking about how she treated you. How I let her. Why did you? I asked. Why did you let her do that to me? David's eyes filled with tears. Because I was weak. Because standing up to her meant admitting I'd made a mistake marrying her. Because it was easier to pretend everything was fine than to face the truth. And what's the truth? That I chose a woman who made me smaller, he said. Who made me into someone I don't respect. Someone Dad wouldn't respect. The mention of Robert broke something in both of us. David wiped his eyes. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back those months. But I need you to know I see it now. I see who she is. Who I became, and I'm so sorry. I reached across the table and took his hand. I forgive you, I said. Not because you deserve it yet, but because you're my son, and I love you. Even when I don't like you very much. He laughed through his tears. That's fair. But David, forgiveness doesn't mean things go back to normal. You broke my trust. You have to earn it back. I know. I will. I promise. We sat there for a long time, drinking coffee, talking about small things, healing things. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to okay. But it was a start. And for the first time since Robert died, I felt like maybe I hadn't lost everything. Maybe some things could still be saved. Asterisk. My apartment became my sanctuary. It was small, just one bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a living room barely big enough for a couch and bookshelf. But it was mine. I painted the walls a soft sage green. Hung photos of Robert and me from happier times. Bought plants and learned to keep them alive. Mrs. Patterson visited often. We'd have tea and talk about books, gardening, life. Reverend James checked in weekly, making sure I wasn't isolating myself. Carla invited me to rejoin the book club, not Nicole's group, but a different one that met at the library. I went, made friends, laughed for the first time in what felt like years. I also started volunteering at a senior advocacy center downtown, helping other older adults navigate family conflicts, financial abuse, legal resources, sharing my story so they'd know they weren't alone. One woman, 73 years old, cried when I told her about the recordings. I thought I was crazy, she said. My daughter-in-law says terrible things but then acts sweet in front of my son. I thought I was imagining it. You're not crazy, I told her. And you don't have to accept it. Helping others helped me heal. It gave my pain purpose. 3 months after the mediation, I received a certified check for $143,000. The $130,000 Nicole had stolen, plus interest and half the legal fees. I stared at it for a long time. It was more money than I'd expected to see again. Enough to feel secure. Enough to live comfortably. But it didn't erase what happened. Money never does. I deposited into a new account and made a decision. Half would go toward my future. The other half would fund the Senior Advocacy Center. If my suffering could prevent even one other person from experiencing the same, it was worth it. David and I continued our slow, careful rebuilding. We met for coffee every other week. Talked about his therapy sessions he'd started, seeing a counselor to work through his patterns of avoidance and conflict. He asked about my life, my volunteering, my new friends. He didn't push for more than I was willing to give. One afternoon, in late October, almost exactly a year after Robert's death, David showed up at my apartment with a box. "What's this?" I asked. "Dad's things," he said. "The stuff you put in storage." I thought, maybe you'd want some of it now. Inside were Robert's favorite sweater, his watch, the wooden chess set we played with every Sunday. I held the sweater to my face and breathed in. It didn't smell like him anymore, but it still felt like home. "Thank you," I whispered. David hugged me. "I'm trying, Mom. I'm really trying." "I know you are. Do you think we'll ever be okay again?" I pulled back and looked at him. "I think we'll be different. But different doesn't have to be bad." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I love you. I love you too." After he left, I set up Robert's chess set on my small kitchen table. I made myself a cup of tea, sat down, and played a game against his memory. He always beat me. Even now, but it felt good to remember him this way. Not through grief, but through love. Outside, the autumn leaves were falling, and for the first time in over a year, I felt something close to peace. Asterisk, asterisk, so here's what I learned. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is strategy. Sometimes it's survival. Sometimes it's the quiet before you roar. But here's the thing. Eventually, you have to roar. You have to stand up. Speak your truth. Demand the respect you deserve, even when it costs you everything. Especially when it costs you everything. I lost 7 months of my life to cruelty. I lost $130,000. I lost the version of my son I thought I knew, but I gained something more valuable. I gained myself back. My dignity, my voice, my refusal to be invisible. And that's worth more than any amount of money or any false peace. If you're in a situation where someone is making you feel small, whether it's family, a partner, a friend, please hear me. You are not crazy. You are not imagining it. You are not too sensitive, and you do not have to accept it. Document everything. Build your case. Find your people. And when the time is right, fight back, not with cruelty. Not with revenge that destroys you too, but with truth, with evidence, with the unshakable knowledge that you deserve better. Nicole tried to erase me. Instead, she taught me that I'm stronger than I ever knew. David thought he could stay neutral. Instead, he learned that neutrality in the face of injustice is just another form of betrayal. And me? I learned that the second half of your life can be just as powerful as the first, maybe even more. Because now I know exactly who I am. And I'll never let anyone take that from me again. If my story resonated with you, share it. Comment below. Tell me your story. Because we're stronger together than we ever are alone. And silence may be strategy. But speaking up, that's freedom.